So for our topic today, we're centering on moving beyond content, right? Because it's not
Mm.
just about content creation, but focusing on that culture connection and the human side of learning design, which I love so much. And I'm glad we're talking about this today. So when you hear the phrase beyond content, what does that mean to you as a designer today?
Well, for sure, content matters. Objectives matter. Good instruction matters. Going back to teaching in the classroom, you were saying earlier, but content on its own doesn't create learning because learning is cultural, it's relational, and it's contextual. So my biggest shift in thinking has been realizing that we don't just design content, we design the conditions to help people connect, to construct meaning, and to sustain the change. Like learning is fundamentally human. So it happens through relationships, through curiosity, through productive struggle, and more often than not, when it challenges us to think differently.
Right. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Moving beyond the content and really going deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, that peeling back
Yeah.
the onion and
I,
those layers. Yeah.
I have a background in inquiry-based learning, and it always goes back to John Dewey, where he really advocated that learning was social. It's experience, it's
Yes.
reflection, it's dialogue, it's questioning, it's problem solving. It's when you don't have just the knowledge in this case, in the specific case scenario, like when you're taking an e-learning course and you're doing ABC, multiple choice questions and whatnot. It's like, how can we transfer this so that the learner can take these core skills and concepts and use them in a new situation? With
Right.
the same level of success. And if
Absolutely.
not, then they understand how to then achieve, how to get the problem solved and approach it, in a constructive manner.
I love that. And I always believe too in that with the inquiry based learning, John Dewey, absolutely. And I love the fact that learning shouldn't be an isolated incident, right? Shouldn't be just
Yeah.
one course or one um, part of it should be all interconnected, right? And follow along with their journey as learners. And so I really love that inquiry based learning myself too. That's something I'm advocating for even more so today, I think, because of all the technology that's out there that
Yeah.
can drown it out. And
Yep.
that's another myth I talk about in my series is that technology enhances learning all the time and always doesn't. Sometimes it can muddle it, right? And make it worse actually sometimes. So it has to be thoughtful design. Yes.
I read when I was studying my master's a few years ago, before AI even came to the forefront, Michael Fullen, I think it was in his book Stratosphere, really, really advocated if pedagogy isn't behind the learning design, it's not happening. Then it's not learning. And that really made me pause. And it had a lot more impact, I think, in my future practices than I even realized. Because if there isn't like evidence based learning, there's no data behind it, there's no observation, there's no, whether you want to do formative assessments of any kind, if you don't have any reason to launch, this learning, then the behavioral change isn't going to happen. It's not going to be sustainable. So
Right.
going back to
That's
like creating the conditions, regular check-ins, regular feedbacks, connecting again with, the boss, hey, do they care? Am I being heard? Am I being validated? You and I were talking before about language of appreciation, the love language in a workplace and how to
right.
go about it. And, my husband just came home tonight exhausted, but he's like, well, I tossed my afternoon out and helped, one of my workers, moving stuff around and whatnot. And it took several hours. And I'm like, well, even though that wasn't on your to-do list and it was on hers, now she's going to, it builds those relationships, it builds that connection. And that goes even to Ryan and Deci, on the self-determination theory, the relatedness needs to be there, the autonomy and the competency needs to be there. So there's a lot of fabulous frameworks out there, but obviously I'm going to bring to the table the ones that have stood out
The
to me
ones
the
that
most.
right, exactly.